Before we start, where are you watching from and what time is it in your city right now? Drop your location in the comments, and if this story disturbs you, good, it should. These things actually happened. Subscribe if you're ready to hear what they do not teach in schools. Patience held her daughter for 72 hours before they took her away. March 14th, 1847, Oakmont Plantation, Henrico County, Virginia. The door to the slave quarters opened at dawn. Everyone in that room stopped breathing. That door opening meant someone from the big house wanted something. And when white people wanted something from enslaved people, blood usually followed. Robert Thornton walked in wearing a gray suit. His overseer, Calvin Morris, followed behind him, carrying a leather strap on his belt. Everyone had felt that strap. Patience twice, once across her back, once across her face. Robert stopped in front of Patience. She was sitting in the corner holding Nora. Her daughter was 3 days old. 72 hours. Patience had counted every single hour. "You had your baby 3 days ago." Robert said it like he was commenting on the weather. Patience kept her eyes down. She pulled Nora closer. "My wife had her baby 2 days ago. A son?" He lived for 10 minutes. His skin turned blue. He stopped breathing in her arms. Robert said this without emotion. Patience could still hear Catherine Thornton's screams from 2 nights ago. Everyone on the plantation heard those screams. They went on for 6 hours. Then silence. "My wife is pregnant again. She was carrying 2 babies. Superfetation. One died. One is still growing inside her. She will deliver in 6 months." Patience felt something cold settle in her chest. She already understood what was coming. Every enslaved woman understood what happened when white women could not produce milk and enslaved women could. "My wife cannot produce milk. Her body shut down after losing the first child. But the second child will need to eat when it arrives. You will nurse my child. You will live in the house. You will be available day and night. Whenever my child needs to eat, you will feed it. Master, please." The words came out before Patience could stop them. She looked up at Robert, straight at his face. She should not have done that, but she did it anyway. "Please let me keep my baby with me. I will nurse your child. I will do whatever you want, but please do not take her from me." Robert stared at her for 3 seconds. Then he nodded at Calvin. The overseer stepped forward and grabbed Patience by her hair. He dragged her to her feet. Nora fell from her arms onto the wooden floor. The baby started screaming. Calvin pulled Patience outside into the yard. Other enslaved people watched from the fields. No one moved. No one said anything. Calvin tied Patience's hands to a post. She was facing the post. Her back was exposed. 20 lashes. Robert said it from the doorway. Calvin pulled the leather strap from his belt. Patience heard the whistle of leather cutting through air. Then pain exploded across her back. The first lash opened her skin. She felt blood running down her spine. The second lash crossed the first. The third hit the same spot. By the 10th lash, she could not feel her legs. By the 15th, she was screaming. By the 20th, she was silent. Calvin untied her. She collapsed onto the dirt. Robert walked over and stood above her. His polished shoes were 6 inches from her face. "Your baby will stay in the quarters. Another woman will care for her. If you argue with me again, I will sell her today. I will put her on a cart, and she will be gone before sunset. Do you understand?" Patience could not speak. Her back felt like it was on fire. She nodded. Blood from her mouth mixed with dirt. "Good. Be at the house at 8 o'clock. Robert walked away. Calvin followed him. Patience lay in the dirt for 5 minutes before she could move. When she finally stood, she could hear Nora crying inside the quarters. The sound cut through her like a knife. Inside, an older woman named Jude was holding Nora. Jude was 50 years old, no teeth left, scars covering her arms. Jude had raised children before, most of them sold, some of them dead. "I will take care of her." Jude said it quietly. Patience wanted to say thank you. She wanted to say something, but her throat was closed. She just nodded. Jude handed Nora to her for one more moment. Patience looked down at her daughter. Nora had stopped crying. Her tiny fists were curled against her chest. Her eyes were closed. Patience kissed Nora's forehead. Then she gave her back to Jude. She walked out of the quarters before she could change her mind, before she could grab Nora and run, because running meant death. Arguing meant Nora would be sold. There was no choice. There had never been a choice. At 8 o'clock, Patience walked to the big house. Every step made her back scream. Blood had soaked through her dress. She walked around to the servants' entrance. Catherine Thornton was waiting in the kitchen. Catherine was 28 years old. Blonde hair, dark circles under her eyes. Her hands were shaking. She looked at Patience's bloody dress, but said nothing about it. "Come here." Patience walked closer. Catherine stood up and touched Patience's arm. Her fingers were cold. "I lost my son 2 days ago. I held him while he died. I felt his heart stop beating against my chest. Do you understand what that feels like?" Patience did not answer. She understood exactly what that felt like. She lost a baby 2 years ago. It came too early. It died the same day it was born. She never got to hold it. I am pregnant with another child. This child will live. I will make sure it lives. And you will make sure it eats. You will keep my child alive. Catherine picked up a glass bottle from the table. She handed it to Patience. "Go upstairs to the nursery. There is a room next to it. Sit in the chair. Express your milk into this bottle. Fill it as much as you can. I will check on you in 1 hour. If you cannot fill it, we will find ways to make you produce more." Patience took the bottle. Her hands were shaking. Catherine watched her. "If you produce enough milk for both babies, yours and mine, then you may feed your baby. If you cannot produce enough, your baby will eat cornmeal and water, whatever we have." Patience felt her throat close. Nora was 3 days old. She could not eat cornmeal. Babies that young could not digest anything but milk. Patience had seen babies die when they did not get milk. They got thin. Their crying got weaker. Then they stopped crying. Then they died. Do you understand? "Yes, ma'am." "Go." Patience climbed the stairs. Her back was still bleeding. Each step felt like her skin was tearing open again. The stairs were carpeted. She had never walked on carpet before. Her bloody feet left marks. The nursery was at the end of the hallway. Inside was a crib, rocking chair, toys on shelves, everything perfect, everything waiting for a baby that was not born yet. The room next to the nursery was smaller. 1 wooden chair, 1 small table, nothing else. Patience sat down in the chair. She looked at the empty bottle in her lap. She had 1 hour to fill it. If she could not fill it, Nora would starve. Her hands were still shaking. She unbuttoned her dress. Her breasts were full, engorged. They hurt. She had been away from Nora for 2 hours. Her body was screaming to feed her daughter. She positioned the bottle and started to express milk. It came out slowly at first, then faster. Her nipples started to crack. She could see blood mixing with the milk in the bottle. She did not stop. She kept going. The pain in her breasts competed with the pain in her back. Everything hurt. Everything was wrong. After 30 minutes, the bottle was half full. After 45 minutes, it was 3/4 full. After 55 minutes, it was full. Milk mixed with blood. Patience looked at it. This was her daughter's life in a glass bottle. This was all she had to offer. She buttoned her dress and stood up. She walked back downstairs. Catherine was still in the kitchen. Patience handed her the bottle. Catherine held it up to the light. She saw the blood mixed in the milk. She frowned. "Your nipples are bleeding." "Yes, ma'am. Can you do this every day?" Patience wanted to say no. She wanted to say this would kill her, but she could not say that, so she said yes. Catherine set the bottle on the table. She looked at Patience for a long moment. "There is something you should see." Catherine walked out of the kitchen. Patience followed her. They went upstairs, past the nursery, down another hallway. Catherine opened a door. Inside was a bedroom, and in the bedroom was a crib, and in the crib was a baby. Patience stopped breathing. The baby was tiny, premature. Its skin was pale, almost translucent. It was breathing, barely. Its chest moved up and down in small, rapid movements. "This is Isabella. She was born yesterday, not 2 days ago. Yesterday." I lied. Patience stared at the baby. Catherine walked over to the crib and picked Isabella up. The baby did not cry. It just lay there in Catherine's arms, limp, barely alive. She was born 3 months early. The doctor said she will die. He said her lungs are not developed. Her heart is weak. She has maybe 2 days, maybe less. Catherine turned to face Patience. She was holding Isabella against her chest. Tears were running down her face. "But I will not let her die. Do you understand me? I will not lose another child. You will feed her. You will keep her alive. Starting right now." Catherine handed Isabella to Patience. The baby was so light, like holding air. Patience could feel the tiny heartbeat against her palm. Fast, irregular, desperate. Feed her. Now. Patience sat down in the rocking chair next to the crib. She unbuttoned her dress again. Her cracked nipples were still bleeding. She positioned Isabella against her breast. The baby did not latch. It was too weak. Patience had to squeeze milk directly into Isabella's mouth, drop by drop. The baby swallowed some. Most of it ran down its chin. Patience sat there for an hour, feeding Isabella. Catherine stood by the window watching. Neither of them spoke. The only sound in the room was Isabella's labored breathing. After an hour, Catherine took Isabella back. She put the baby in the crib. She looked at Patience. "You will come back tonight, and tomorrow morning, and tomorrow night, every 3 hours. You will keep my daughter alive. Yes, ma'am, you can see your baby once a day, after you feed mine." Patience felt something break inside her chest. Once a day. She could see Nora once a day, while she spent every 3 hours feeding a white baby that was probably going to die anyway. "Go back to the quarters. Be back here at 11 o'clock tonight." Patience walked back to the quarters. It was almost noon. She had been gone for 4 hours. Inside the quarters, Jude was still holding Nora, but Nora was not crying anymore. She was silent, too silent. Patience took Nora from Jude's arms. Her daughter felt lighter. In 4 hours, she had lost weight. Patience pulled Nora to her chest and tried to feed her, but Nora would not latch. She was too weak, too hungry. Patience had to squeeze milk into her mouth the same way she fed Isabella, drop by drop. Nora drank for 10 minutes. Then she fell asleep. Patience held her daughter and looked at her face. Nora's cheeks were already getting hollow. Her skin was getting pale. Patience had been gone for 4 hours, and already her daughter was dying. Jude sat down next to Patience. How much milk do you have to give the white baby? All of it. Patience said it quietly. Jude nodded. She had seen this before. She had lived this before. Then your baby will die. Jude said it like she was talking about the weather, like it was inevitable, like there was nothing anyone could do. Patience looked down at Nora. Her daughter was sleeping, her tiny chest moving up and down, still alive, for now. Patience held Nora until she had to leave again. At 11 o'clock that night, she walked back to the big house. Her back was still bleeding. Her nipples were cracked and infected. Her breasts felt like they were on fire. But she walked anyway, because if she did not, Nora would be sold. And if Nora was sold, Patience would never see her again. She climbed the stairs to Isabella's room. Catherine was waiting. She handed Isabella to Patience without saying a word. Patience sat in the rocking chair and fed the white baby, drop by drop, hour after hour. Isabella lived through that night, and the next day, and the next night. Against all odds, the premature baby survived, because Patience kept her alive, because Patience gave Isabella every drop of milk her body could produce. And Nora got what was left, which was almost nothing. 6 weeks later, Nora weighed 4 pounds. She was born at 6 pounds 8 ounces. In 42 days, she lost 2 pounds 8 ounces. Her ribs showed through her skin. Her crying had become weak. Sometimes she did not cry at all. She just lay there with her eyes half open, staring at nothing. Patience saw her daughter once a day, sometimes twice if Catherine was in a good mood. Every time Patience held Nora, she could feel more bones, less flesh, less life. Isabella was thriving. The premature baby who was supposed to die had gained 3 pounds. Her skin was no longer translucent. Her breathing was steady. Her heart was strong. She was alive because Patience fed her every 3 hours, day and night, without fail. Catherine stood in the nursery watching Patience feed Isabella. It was May 2nd, 1847. 7 weeks since Patience's life had been split in half. She is beautiful. Look at her. She is perfect. Catherine said it while staring at Isabella. Patience said nothing. She just held the white baby and let her drink. Isabella latched easily now. She drank fast. She was hungry all the time, growing, thriving, living. You saved her life. The doctor said she would die, but you kept her alive. I will never forget that. Catherine walked closer. She touched Isabella's head. Her hand was shaking. I am 3 months pregnant now. The baby is growing. I can feel it moving. The doctor says this one is strong. It will survive. Patience felt something cold settle in her chest. Another baby. Another mouth to feed. Another white child who would take everything while Nora starved. When this baby is born, you will nurse both of them, Isabella and the new baby. You will have enough milk for both. I will make sure of it. Patience looked up at Catherine. The white woman's face was calm, like she was discussing the weather, like she was not talking about splitting one woman's body between 2 babies while a 3rd baby died. My baby is dying. Patience said it quietly. She had not meant to say it out loud, but the words came out anyway. Catherine's expression did not change. Your baby is being fed. Jude feeds her cornmeal twice a day. Cornmeal is killing her. She is 6 weeks old. She cannot digest it. She needs milk. Then she needs you to produce more milk. Catherine said it simply, like it was obvious, like Patience was not already producing enough milk to feed Isabella every 3 hours. Like Patience's body was not already breaking from the constant demand. I cannot produce more. I am giving everything I have to your daughter. There is nothing left for mine." Catherine stared at Patience for a long moment. Then she walked to the window and looked outside. "I lost a son. He died in my arms. I felt his heart stop beating. I held his body for 3 hours before they took him away. Do you think I do not understand loss?" Patience said nothing. Catherine turned around. "Your daughter is alive. She is breathing. She is in the quarters being cared for. My son is in the ground, so do not talk to me about loss. I am not asking for sympathy. I am asking for milk, enough milk to keep my daughter alive, and I am telling you to produce more. Eat more, drink more, do whatever you need to do, but you will feed my children first. Always. That is not negotiable." Patience felt tears burning behind her eyes. She looked down at Isabella. The baby was almost asleep, her belly full, her skin warm. She looked healthy, happy, alive. "Please, let me take some milk back to the quarters. Just a little, just enough to keep Nora alive until I can produce more." "No," Catherine said it without hesitation. Patience felt something break inside her. "She will die. Then you will produce more milk before that happens." Catherine walked out of the nursery. Patience sat there holding Isabella. The baby was asleep now, breathing steadily, content. Patience could feel her own breasts aching. They were full again. Isabella had only fed from one side. The other side was engorged, painful, full of milk that Nora would never get to drink. Patience looked at the door. Catherine was gone. The hallway was empty. Patience looked back down at Isabella. Then she looked at the table next to the rocking chair. There was a glass bottle sitting there, the same bottle Catherine made her fill on the first day. Patience's hands were shaking. She put Isabella in the crib. The baby did not wake up. Patience picked up the bottle. She unbuttoned her dress and positioned the bottle against her other breast. She started to express milk. It came fast. Within 5 minutes, the bottle was half full. Within 10 minutes, it was full. Patience hid the bottle under her dress. She buttoned the fabric around it. Then she picked up Isabella and put her back in the crib. She walked out of the nursery, down the stairs, through the kitchen, out the servants' entrance. She walked across the yard to the quarters. Her heart was pounding. If anyone saw the bottle, she would be whipped again. Or worse, Robert had threatened to sell Nora. He could do it. He could sell her daughter today, and Patience would never see her again. But Nora was dying. That was not a threat. That was happening right now. And Patience could not watch her daughter die when she had milk to give her. Inside the quarters, Jude was sitting in the corner holding Nora. The baby was not moving. Jude looked up when Patience walked in. Her face said everything. She stopped eating this morning. I tried to give her cornmeal, but she would not open her mouth. I tried to give her water, but she would not swallow. She is leaving us. Patience took Nora from Jude's arms. Her daughter felt like air, like nothing. Patience could see her heartbeat through her chest, fast, irregular, desperate. Patience pulled the bottle from under her dress. She unscrewed the cap. She poured a small amount of milk into her hand and rubbed it on Nora's lips. The baby did not respond. Patience tried again. This time Nora's tongue moved, just slightly, just enough to taste the milk. Patience positioned the bottle against Nora's mouth. She let a few drops fall onto the baby's tongue. Nora swallowed. Then she swallowed again. Then her mouth opened and she latched onto the bottle. Nora drank for 15 minutes. She drank half the bottle. Then she fell asleep. Her breathing was still weak, but it was there. She was still alive. Patience hid the bottle again. She held Nora for another hour. Then she had to go back to the house. She gave Nora to Jude and walked away. She did not look back. If she looked back, she would take Nora with her. And if she took Nora with her, Robert would sell her. That night, Patience fed Isabella again. Then she went to her small room next to the nursery. She sat in the wooden chair and cried. She cried because she had stolen milk from Catherine's baby to feed her own. She cried because it had worked. Nora had drunk the milk. Nora was still alive. And she cried because she would have to do it again tomorrow, and the day after, and the day after that, until Catherine caught her, or until Nora died anyway. For 3 weeks, Patience stole milk. Every day she filled the bottle and hid it under her dress. Every day she brought it to the quarters and fed Nora. Every day Nora got a little bit stronger. Not strong, but stronger. Her crying got louder. Her eyes opened more. She started moving her hands. She was fighting to live. Isabella did not seem to notice. The baby was still thriving, still growing, still healthy. Patience was producing more milk now. Enough for Isabella to drink her fill and enough for Patience to steal a bottle's worth each day. It was working. Until May 23rd. Patience was in the quarters feeding Nora. It was afternoon. The sun was high. Most of the field workers were still working. Patience had 30 minutes before she needed to be back at the house. She was holding Nora with one hand and the bottle with the other. Nora was drinking, making small sounds. Her eyes were open. She was looking at Patience. The door opened. Patience looked up. Robert Thornton stood in the doorway. Calvin Morris stood behind him. They both stared at Patience, at Nora, at the bottle. Nobody said anything for 5 seconds. Then Robert walked into the quarters. Calvin followed him. Robert stopped in front of Patience. He looked at the bottle in her hand, at the milk, at Nora drinking it. "Where did you get that milk?" Patience's throat closed. She could not speak. She could not breathe. She just sat there, holding her daughter. "I asked you a question. Where did you get that milk?" "I produced it." Robert stared at her. His face was completely calm. That was worse than anger. Patience had seen him angry before. This was different. This was cold. "You produced it. For my daughter." "Yes? And then you stole it? You brought it here? You fed your baby instead of mine. She was dying. I had to feed her. You stole from me. You stole milk that belongs to my daughter, milk that I paid for, milk that keeps my child alive. And you gave it to your baby. I gave what was left over. Isabella gets everything she needs. She is healthy. She is thriving. This is just what is extra. There is no extra. Everything you produce belongs to my family. Your body belongs to my family. That milk belongs to my daughter, not yours." Robert looked at Calvin. The overseer stepped forward. He grabbed the bottle from Patience's hand. Nora started crying. Robert picked Nora up from Patience's lap. Patience tried to stand, but Calvin pushed her back down. Robert held Nora at arm's length. The baby was screaming. Her arms and legs were moving. She was so thin. Her ribs stuck out. Her skin was gray. Robert stared at her for a long moment. "She is half dead already. Look at her. She has maybe a week left, maybe less. You stole from my daughter to keep this thing alive for 1 more week." Robert handed Nora to Calvin. Then he looked at Patience. "You will not see this baby again. Calvin will take her to the quarters on the east side of the plantation. She will stay there. If you try to see her, I will sell her. If you steal milk again, I will sell her. If you do anything other than exactly what I tell you to do, I will sell her. Do you understand?" Patience could not speak. She could not think. She could only hear Nora screaming. Calvin was holding her daughter like she was a sack of grain, rough, careless. Nora's head was not supported, her neck bent at a wrong angle. I said, "Do you understand?" "Yes?" Patience whispered it. Robert turned and walked out. Calvin followed him, carrying Nora. Patience could hear her daughter screaming. The sound got quieter. Then it was gone. Jude sat down next to Patience. Neither of them said anything. There was nothing to say. Nora was gone. Patience was not allowed to see her, and Robert had made it clear what would happen if Patience tried. That night, Patience fed Isabella. The baby drank fast. She was hungry. When she finished, she looked up at Patience and smiled. Babies usually did not smile until they were 6 weeks old. Isabella was 9 weeks old. She was thriving, happy, alive. Patience put Isabella back in the crib. Catherine walked into the nursery. She had been listening from the hallway. "My husband told me what you did. You stole from my daughter. You put her life at risk to save your baby." "Isabella was never at risk. She gets everything she needs." "You do not decide what my daughter needs. I decide. My husband decides. You are property. You do what we tell you to do. Nothing more." Catherine walked to the crib and looked down at Isabella. The baby was almost asleep. Catherine touched her daughter's face. "Robert moved your baby to the East Quarters. That was generous. He could have sold her today. Instead, he is giving you another chance. If you produce enough milk for both babies, you can see yours again. If you cannot produce enough, then your baby dies. That is the arrangement." Patience's hands were shaking. She looked at Catherine. "How much milk do I need to produce?" "Enough for Isabella and enough for the new baby when it arrives." "That is 4 months from now. If you can produce enough for both of them by then, you can bring milk to your baby once a week. If you cannot produce enough, your baby gets nothing. Those are the terms. 4 months. Nora would not survive 4 months without milk. She was already half dead. Catherine's new baby would not be born until September. Nora would be dead by June. She will die before September. Then produce more milk now. Drink milk yourself. Eat more food. Do whatever it takes. But produce enough for my children first. Always. Catherine walked out. Patience stood in the nursery alone. She looked at Isabella sleeping in the crib. The baby looked peaceful, content. She had no idea what was happening around her. She just knew she was full and warm and loved. Patience walked to her small room. She sat in the chair. She stared at the wall. She thought about Nora in the East Quarters, alone, starving, dying, and there was nothing Patience could do. If she went to see Nora, Robert would sell her. If she stole milk again, Robert would sell her. If she did anything except feed Isabella and the new baby, Robert would sell Nora, and Patience would never see her daughter again. But Nora was dying anyway. That was already happening. Patience was just choosing how quickly it would happen, fast or slow, with milk or without it. But the end was the same. Patience put her head in her hands and cried. She cried because she had made a choice. She had chosen to try to save Nora. And now Nora was going to die anyway. And Patience would not even be there to hold her when it happened. September 4th, 1847. Catherine Thornton gave birth to a baby boy. His name was David. He weighed 7 pounds 3 ounces. He was healthy, pink skin, strong lungs. He screamed when the doctor slapped his back. A perfect baby. Patience was in the room when it happened. She watched Catherine push for 4 hours. She watched the blood. She watched the doctor pull David out and cut the cord. She watched Catherine hold her son and cry. She watched Robert kiss his wife's forehead and stare at his son like he was looking at gold. Then the doctor handed David to Patience. "Feed him?" That was all Robert said. Patience took the baby. He was still covered in blood and fluid, still screaming. She sat in the chair next to Catherine's bed and unbuttoned her dress. David latched immediately. He drank hard, fast, hungry. He drained one breast in 10 minutes, then he drained the other. When he finished, he fell asleep in Patience's arms. Patience looked down at him. He looked exactly like Robert. Same nose, same chin, same expression even as a newborn. This baby would grow up to own people. This baby would grow up to be a master. And Patience was going to keep him alive. "You will nurse both children now. David and Isabella. David needs to eat every 2 hours. Isabella every 3 hours. That means you will be feeding one of them almost constantly. Do you understand?" Robert said it from the doorway. Patience looked up at him. Her breasts were already aching. David had emptied them completely. In 2 hours he would need to eat again, and in 3 hours Isabella would need to eat, and Patience's body would have to produce enough milk for both of them. "I understand." "Good. Your baby is still alive. For now. Jude says she has maybe a week left, maybe less. If you want her to survive, you will need to produce more milk. Enough for my children and yours." "How much more?" "Double what you are producing now." Patience felt her throat close. She was already producing enough milk to feed David and Isabella. She was barely sleeping, barely eating. Her body was destroying itself to make milk, and now Robert wanted her to produce double. It was impossible. "I cannot produce that much. Then your baby dies." Robert said it simply, like he was commenting on the weather. Patience looked down at David sleeping in her arms. This baby boy who had everything, who would have everything, while Nora had nothing. "Catherine is going to help you. She has a special diet prepared, foods that will increase your milk production. You will eat 6 times a day. You will drink milk yourself, cow milk. You will do exercises. You will do everything we tell you to do. And you will produce enough milk for 3 babies. Or your baby dies." Robert walked out. Patience sat there holding David. Catherine was lying in bed watching her. The white woman looked exhausted. Her face was pale, her hair was soaked with sweat, but she was smiling. "He is perfect. Look at him. 10 fingers, 10 toes, breathing perfectly. He is going to live." Catherine said it with certainty, like she had never doubted it. Like losing her first son had been a bad dream, and now everything was fine. She had her baby. She had her perfect, healthy baby boy. And Patience was going to feed him while her own daughter died. For 2 weeks, Patience ate the special diet: raw eggs in the morning, milk at noon, fatty meats in the evening, foods she had never eaten before, foods that made her sick. But she ate them anyway. She ate until she could not eat any more. Then she ate more. Her body responded. Her milk production increased, not double, but more. Enough to feed David and Isabella with some left over. Enough to steal a bottle once a day. Patience hid the bottle under her dress like she had done before. But this time she did not bring it to the quarters. She could not risk getting caught again. Instead, she gave it to Jude when Jude came to the big house to collect laundry. Jude hid the bottle in the laundry basket and brought it back to the east quarters. To Nora, it worked for 1 week. Then Robert found out. He did not catch Patience this time. He caught Jude. Calvin Morris saw her pouring milk into Nora's mouth. He grabbed the bottle. He grabbed Jude. He dragged her to the whipping post in the middle of the plantation where everyone could see. Robert made Patience watch. He made all the enslaved people watch. Jude was 50 years old. Her back was already covered in scars from previous whippings. Robert did not care. He ordered Calvin to give her 30 lashes. Jude lasted until the 15th lash. Then she collapsed. Calvin poured water on her face. She woke up. He whipped her 15 more times. When he finished, her back was destroyed, torn open, bleeding. She could not stand. 2 men had to carry her back to the quarters. Robert walked over to Patience. He was holding the bottle, the one Patience had filled that morning, the one that was supposed to keep Nora alive for one more day. You stole from me again, even after I warned you, even after I told you what would happen. I did not bring the bottle myself. I gave it to Jude, and now Jude has 30 lashes across her back, an old woman who did nothing wrong except help you steal from my children. Patience felt tears burning behind her eyes. She did not let them fall. She would not cry in front of Robert. She would not give him that. Your baby is dying. Jude says she has 3 days left, maybe less. Her organs are shutting down. She is not crying anymore. She is not moving. She is just lying there, waiting to die. Then let me see her. Let me hold her before she dies. No. Robert dropped the bottle on the ground. It shattered. Milk and glass spread across the dirt. He stepped on the glass. It crunched under his boot. You will not see your baby again. When she dies, Jude will bury her. You will not attend the burial. You will not know where she is buried. You will never visit her grave. She will disappear, and you will forget she ever existed. That is your punishment for stealing from my family. Patience felt something break inside her chest. She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out. Robert stared at her for a long moment. Then he walked away. That night, Patience fed David. Then she fed Isabella. Then she sat in her small room and stared at the wall. Her daughter was dying 300 feet away, and Patience could not go to her, could not hold her, could not say goodbye. At midnight there was a soft knock on her door. Patience opened it. Jude stood there. Her back was wrapped in bandages. Blood had soaked through. She could barely stand. But she was there. Your baby is dying. Right now. If you want to see her, you need to come with me. Now. Patience looked down the hallway. The house was dark. Robert and Catherine were asleep. The servants were asleep. Nobody would know if she left. But if Robert found out, he would sell Nora. Or worse. But Nora was dying anyway. She was dying right now. And if Patience did not go, her daughter would die alone. Without her mother. Without anyone who loved her. Patience followed Jude out of the house. They walked across the dark plantation to the east quarters. Inside, it was silent. Too silent. Patience could feel death in the air. Jude led her to a corner. There was a small bundle of cloth on the floor. Patience knelt down and unwrapped it. Nora was still alive. Barely. Her eyes were half open. Her mouth was slightly open. Her chest was moving. Up and down. So slowly it was almost invisible. Her skin was gray. Her lips were blue. Her entire body was bone. Nothing else. Just bone and skin and a tiny heartbeat that was fading. Patience picked up Nora and held her against her chest. Her daughter weighed nothing. Less than nothing. She felt like a bird, like air, like she was already gone. Nora did not move, did not make a sound, did not react. She just lay there in Patience's arms with her eyes half open, staring at nothing. Patience unbuttoned her dress. Her breasts were full. She had just fed Isabella an hour ago, but her body was already producing more milk. She positioned Nora against her breast. Her daughter's mouth touched the nipple, but she did not latch. She did not have the strength. Patience squeezed milk directly into Nora's mouth, drop by drop. Most of it ran down her chin. Some of it went into her throat. Nora swallowed once. Then she stopped. Her throat did not move any more. Patience kept squeezing milk, kept trying, kept hoping. But Nora did not swallow again. Her mouth stayed open. The milk pooled on her tongue. Then it spilled out onto Patience's chest. Patience held her daughter for 3 hours. She held her until the sun started to rise. She held her until Nora's chest stopped moving. She held her until she felt her daughter's heart stop beating against her palm. Nora died at 5:43 in the morning on September 17, 1847. She was 6 months and 3 days old. She died in her mother's arms. She died without ever knowing her mother's name, without ever smiling, without ever living. Patience sat there holding her dead daughter. She did not cry. She could not cry. She just sat there feeling nothing, feeling everything, feeling her entire world collapse into the weight of a dead baby in her arms. Jude knelt down next to her. You need to go back to the house before they wake up, before they find you gone. I cannot leave her. You have to. If Master Robert finds out you were here, he will punish you worse than this. You need to go. Patience looked down at Nora one last time. Her daughter's eyes were still half open. Patience closed them with her thumb. Then she wrapped Nora back in the cloth. She stood up. She handed her daughter to Jude. Bury her somewhere I can find her, please. I will. Where? Jude hesitated. Then she whispered. Under the magnolia tree behind the east quarters, 3 feet from the trunk, on the south side. Patience nodded. She walked out of the quarters, across the dark plantation, back to the big house, back to her small room. She washed the milk off her chest. She buttoned her dress. She sat in the chair and waited for dawn. At 6 o'clock, Catherine knocked on her door. David was crying. He needed to eat. Patience picked him up and fed him. He drank fast, greedy, taking everything Patience had to give. When he finished, he looked up at Patience and smiled. A real smile. Babies smiled when they were happy, when they felt loved, when they felt safe. Patience looked at David's smile and felt nothing. Her daughter had just died. Her breasts were feeding the baby boy who belonged to the people who let her daughter starve. And she felt absolutely nothing. Catherine walked into the room. He is smiling. Look at that. He is happy. You are doing such a good job with him. Patience did not respond. She just held David and stared at the wall. 2 weeks later, Robert called Patience into his study. She had not been in this room before. It was large, filled with books, a desk near the window, leather chairs, everything expensive, everything perfect. Robert was sitting at his desk. He looked up when Patience walked in. Your baby died 2 weeks ago. Jude buried her in the east quarters. I was going to punish you for sneaking out to see her. But Catherine convinced me not to. She said you needed to say goodbye. So I am letting it go. This time. Patience said nothing. Robert stood up and walked around the desk. You are no longer needed at night. David and Isabella are old enough to sleep through the night without feeding. You will feed them during the day only. Morning, afternoon, and evening. That means you will have time to work in the fields. Starting tomorrow, you will pick cotton from 7 in the morning until 5 in the afternoon. Then you will come to the house and feed my children. Then you will go back to the quarters. Do you understand? Yes. Good. You have been a good wet nurse. My children are healthy because of you. Catherine wants me to tell you that. Robert handed Patience a small cloth bag. She took it. Inside was a biscuit, a piece of salt pork, and an apple. More food than Patience had seen in months. "This is your payment for keeping my children alive." Patience looked at the bag, then at Robert, then at the bag again. This was her payment, a biscuit and a piece of salt pork, for sacrificing her daughter, for destroying her body, for giving everything she had to keep 2 white children alive while her own baby starved to death. Patience took the bag and walked out. She went to her small room and packed the few things she had. A blanket, a dress, nothing else. Then she walked to the quarters. She would sleep there now, in the same room where she held Nora 72 hours after she was born, the same room where her life ended. That night, Patience did not sleep. She waited until everyone else was asleep. Then she walked to the east quarters, to the magnolia tree, to the spot Jude described, 3 feet from the trunk on the south side. Patience knelt down and touched the dirt. It was soft, freshly turned. Nora was underneath, 6 inches down, wrapped in cloth, alone, forever. Patience sat next to her daughter's grave. She opened the cloth bag Robert gave her. She took out the biscuit and the salt pork and the apple. She set them on the ground. Then she cried. For the first time since Nora died, Patience cried. She cried until she had no tears left. She cried until the sun came up. Then she stood. She left the food on Nora's grave. And she walked away, because that was all she could do, all she would ever be able to do. October 12th, 1852, 5 years after Nora died. A man came to Oakmont Plantation. His name was Samuel Williams. He was from Boston. He said he was a journalist writing about slavery. Robert Thornton let him visit for 3 days because he wanted to prove that Oakmont was not cruel, that their enslaved people were treated well, that the rumors about them were lies. Samuel Williams spent 2 days walking around the plantation. He talked to field workers. He watched them pick cotton. He ate dinner with Robert and Catherine. He wrote notes in a leather notebook. He smiled and nodded and thanked Robert for his hospitality. On the 3rd day, he asked to interview Patience. They sat in the quarters. It was noon. Most of the enslaved people were in the fields. The quarters were empty, except for a few children and one old woman in the corner. Samuel Williams pulled out his notebook and a pencil. He looked at Patience. "How long have you been enslaved?" "Since birth." "Do you have children?" Patience hesitated. She looked at the door. Robert was not there. Calvin was not there. It was just her and this white man from Boston who spoke softly and wrote everything down. "Yes, 1 daughter." "Where is she?" "Dead." Samuel Williams stopped writing. He looked up at Patience. "How did she die?" Patience stared at him. This man did not know her, did not know Nora, did not know what Robert and Catherine had done. He was just asking questions, writing a story. He would leave in a few hours and go back to Boston and forget about her. But maybe he would not forget. Maybe if she told him, someone would know. Someone would remember. Nora would not just be a name on a grave that no one visited. She would be a story, a truth, something that mattered. She died because I had to feed my master's children instead of my own. Samuel Williams put his pencil down. He leaned forward. "Tell me everything," Patience told him. She told him about the 72 hours, about Nora being taken away, about feeding Isabella and David, about stealing milk, about getting caught, about the whipping, about Jude, about watching Nora die while holding her, about David smiling the same day, about being forbidden to visit the grave, about the magnolia tree, about everything. Samuel Williams wrote for 30 minutes without stopping. When Patience finished, he looked at her. "This happened here, on this plantation. The Thorntons did this to you." "Yes." "And your daughter is buried here." "Yes." "Under the magnolia tree behind the east quarters." Samuel Williams closed his notebook. He stood up. "I am going to write about this. People need to know what happens here, what happens on plantations like this, how families are destroyed, how children die. People need to know the truth. If you write about it, Master Robert will punish me. He will punish you anyway. For something. For anything. Men like Robert Thornton always find reasons to punish people. At least this way, your daughter's death will mean something." Patience said nothing. Samuel Williams walked out of the quarters. That night at dinner, he thanked Robert for his hospitality. He shook Robert's hand. He smiled. He said nothing about Patience, about Nora, about the interview. The next morning, Samuel Williams left Oakmont Plantation. Robert watched him go. Then he went back to his study. Then he went to the quarters and called for Patience. Patience followed Robert to the study. Catherine was there too, sitting in a chair by the window, her hands folded in her lap. She looked tired. She was pregnant again. Her 5th child, due in 3 months. Robert closed the door. He turned to face Patience. "That journalist asked you questions yesterday. What did you tell him? He asked me about my life, about being enslaved. Did you tell him about your daughter?" Patience felt ice run down her spine. Robert's face was calm. Too calm. "Yes." "Did you tell him how she died?" "Yes." Robert nodded. He walked to his desk and sat down. He picked up a piece of paper and looked at it. Then he looked back at Patience. "Mr. Williams sent me a letter this morning." Before he left, "He told me he is writing an article about you, about your daughter, about what happened here. He said the article will be published in a Boston newspaper next month. He said it will tell the truth about slavery, about how we treat our property." Robert set the paper down. He stood up and walked over to Patience. He stopped 2 feet in front of her. "You told a stranger our private business. You made my family look like monsters. You gave him ammunition to use against us, against all plantation owners, against the entire South. Do you understand what you have done?" I told him the truth. The truth. Robert laughed. It was a cold sound. "The truth is that you are my property, that your daughter was my property, that I can do whatever I want with my property. That is the truth." But you told him a different story. You told him I let your baby starve. You told him I forced you to nurse my children. You told him I whipped you. You made me sound like a villain. You are a villain. Patience said it quietly. She did not mean to say it out loud, but it came out anyway. Robert stared at her. His face went white, then red, then white again. Catherine stood up from her chair. "Robert, please, do not do anything rash." Robert held up his hand. Catherine sat back down. Robert took a step closer to Patience. She could smell the tobacco on his breath. "I could kill you right now. I could snap your neck. I could have Calvin whip you to death. I could do anything I want, and nobody would stop me, because you are my property. Then do it." Patience said it and meant it. She was tired, so tired. 5 years of waking up every day and walking past the magnolia tree and knowing Nora was underneath and never being able to stop. 5 years of feeding David and Isabella and watching them grow into copies of their parents. 5 years of living when dying seemed easier. Robert smiled. It was the worst smile Patience had ever seen. "No, I am not going to kill you. I am going to do something worse. I am going to sell you." Catherine stood up again. "Robert, you cannot sell her. We need her. I need her. The baby is coming in 3 months. Who will help me? We will find someone else. Patience is done here. I already have a buyer, a plantation in Alabama. The owner's name is James Turner. He runs a large operation, 200 enslaved people. He specializes in breeding. He buys women who can produce children. Then he breeds them. Then he sells the children. It is very profitable. Robert walked back to his desk. He picked up another piece of paper. Mr. Turner is paying me $800 for you. That is twice what you are worth. But he says he needs experienced wet nurses, women who have already produced milk, women who can feed multiple children. You are perfect for what he needs. Patience felt her stomach drop. Breeding. Turner wanted to breed her, wanted to force her to have more children, more babies that would be taken away, more Noras, over and over until her body broke. Please do not sell me to him. Sell me to someone else. Sell me anywhere else. Please. Robert folded the paper and put it in his pocket. You should have thought of that before you talked to that journalist. You leave tomorrow morning. Calvin will take you to the meeting point. Mr. Turner's men will be waiting. You will never see Oakmont again. You will never visit your daughter's grave again. She will stay here, and you will be in Alabama, and that is how it will be for the rest of your life. Robert walked out. Catherine stayed. She looked at Patience for a long moment. I am sorry. I wish things were different. You are not sorry. You just do not want to find a new wet nurse. Catherine flinched. Then she walked out too. Patience stood in the study alone. Tomorrow morning? She had until tomorrow morning. One more night. One more chance to see Nora's grave. Patience went back to the quarters. She told Jude what had happened. Jude held her hand and said nothing. There was nothing to say. Patience packed her few belongings into a cloth bag. A dress, a blanket, nothing else. That night, Patience could not sleep. At midnight she got up. She walked out of the quarters, across the dark plantation, to the magnolia tree, to Nora's grave. The grass had grown thick over the years. You could barely see where the dirt had been turned. Patience knelt down. She touched the ground. She could feel tears on her face, but she did not try to stop them. I have to leave tomorrow. I do not want to leave you. But they are making me. They are sending me to Alabama, to a man who is going to use me the same way Robert used me. I am going to have more children, and they are all going to be taken away, just like you were taken away. Patience lay down on the grave. She pressed her face against the grass. I am so sorry. I could not save you. I tried. I tried so hard. But it was not enough. It will never be enough. I will carry this for the rest of my life. I will carry you for the rest of my life. Patience stayed there until dawn. When the sun started to rise, she stood up. She looked at the magnolia tree. She memorized the shape of it, the branches, the leaves, the exact spot 3 feet from the trunk on the south side. She would never see it again. But she would remember. She would always remember. At 6:00 Calvin came to the quarters. He grabbed Patience by the arm and dragged her out. There was a cart waiting. A man Patience had never seen was sitting in the driver's seat. He was young, maybe 25. He had a scar across his left cheek. He looked bored. This is Marcus. He works for Mr. Turner. He will take you to Alabama. It will take 2 weeks. Do not try to run. Do not try to fight. If you do, Marcus has orders to kill you. Do you understand? Yes. Calvin pushed Patience toward the cart. Marcus reached down and pulled her up. He pushed her into the back. There were chains attached to the floor. Marcus locked one chain around Patience's ankle. Then he climbed back to the driver's seat. The cart started moving. Patience looked back at Oakmont. at the big house, at the quarters, at the magnolia tree in the distance. The tree got smaller. Then it disappeared. Then Oakmont disappeared. Patience closed her eyes. She tried to picture Nora's face, but she could not remember it anymore. 5 years was too long. Nora had been a baby for 72 hours. Patience had held her for maybe 10 hours total in her entire life. That was not enough time to remember a face, not enough time to hold on to the details. All Patience had left were fragments, a feeling, a weight, a heartbeat, but not a face. The trip to Alabama took 13 days. Marcus stopped at taverns every night. He slept upstairs. Patience slept in the cart, chained. On the 8th day, it rained. Patience sat in the cart getting soaked. Marcus did not cover her, did not care. On the 11th day, Patience got a fever. She shivered and burned and hallucinated. Marcus still did not care. On the 13th day, they arrived at Turner's plantation. It was bigger than Oakmont, more fields, more quarters, more enslaved people. Everything was bigger, and everything looked meaner, harder, colder. Marcus stopped the cart in front of a large building. It was not the main house. It was something else. He unlocked the chain from Patience's ankle and pulled her out of the cart. She could barely stand. The fever had not broken. She stumbled. Marcus caught her and dragged her toward the building. Inside it was dark. It took Patience's eyes a moment to adjust. When they did, she saw rows of beds, small beds, maybe 20 of them. And in those beds were women, pregnant women, all of them. Some were far along, some were just starting to show. All of them looked exhausted. Marcus pushed Patience toward a man standing near the door. The man was older, maybe 50. He was short and fat, and he smelled like sweat and whiskey. He looked Patience up and down. "This is her? This is the wet nurse Robert Thornton sold me?" "Yes, sir. This is Patience." The fat man walked around Patience, looking at her like she was a horse he was thinking about buying. "She looks sick. She got a fever on the trip. She will recover. She better. I paid $800 for her. I expect her to be worth it." The fat man stopped in front of Patience. He grabbed her face and forced her to look at him. "My name is James Turner. I own this plantation. I own you. You are here to do one thing. Breed. Do you understand?" Patience said nothing. Turner slapped her, hard. Her head snapped to the side. "I asked you a question. Do you understand?" "Yes." "Good. You will stay in this building. It is called the breeding house. All the women in here are pregnant. When they give birth, they rest for 3 days. Then they get pregnant again. We keep them pregnant as much as possible. It is the most profitable way to run a breeding operation." Turner let go of Patience's face. He walked to the center of the room. "You are going to get pregnant within the next month. I have men who will visit you every night until you conceive. Once you are pregnant, you will carry the baby to term. When you give birth, you will nurse the baby for 2 weeks. Then the baby will be sold. Then you will get pregnant again. You will repeat this process until you can no longer conceive. Do you understand?" Patience felt bile rise in her throat. She was going to throw up. She swallowed it down. "What happens to the babies after you sell them? That is not your concern. All you need to know is that you will produce them. I will profit from them. That is how this works." Turner walked back to Patience. He put his face close to hers. "And if you try to run, I will hang you. If you try to hurt yourself, I will whip you until you cannot walk. If you refuse to cooperate, I will chain you to a bed and force you. There is no escape. There is no hope. There is only this. For the rest of your life." Turner turned and walked out. Marcus followed him. The door closed. Patience heard a lock click. She stood there for a moment. Then her legs gave out. She collapsed onto the floor. Around her, the pregnant women stared. None of them said anything. None of them moved. They just stared, like they had seen this before, like they knew what was coming, like they had given up. A woman in the bed closest to Patience spoke. She was young, maybe 19. Her belly was enormous. She looked like she would give birth any day. "How many children do you have?" Patience looked at her. The woman's eyes were empty, dead, like she was not really there anymore. "One. She died." The woman nodded. "I have had 6. They took all of them, sold them before I could even hold them. Turner says I have maybe 10 more years of breeding in me. Then he will sell me or work me to death, whichever is cheaper." The woman turned over in her bed. She faced the wall. The conversation was over. Patience sat on the floor. She looked around the breeding house. 20 beds, 20 women, all of them pregnant, all of them prisoners. All of them living the same nightmare over and over. This was her life now. This was what Robert Thornton had sold her into. This was her punishment for telling the truth. Patience thought about Nora, about the magnolia tree, about the 72 hours when she was a mother. That was over. That life was over. Now there was only this: endless pregnancy, endless loss, endless suffering, until her body gave out, until she died, alone, forgotten, buried in an unmarked grave, like Nora. The door opened. A man walked in. He was tall, muscular. He looked at the women like they were livestock. Turner spoke from the hallway. "Start with the new one. Make sure she conceives this month. I have a buyer already lined up for her first child." The man walked towards Patience. She tried to stand, tried to run, but her fever made her weak. Her legs would not work. The man grabbed her and dragged her to an empty bed. He threw her down. Patience closed her eyes. She thought about Nora. She held on to that image, that feeling, that weight in her arms. She held on to it while the man did what Turner had paid him to do. She held on to it while her body was used, while her future was destroyed, while everything she was became nothing. Patience closed her eyes. She thought about Nora, about the 72 hours, about being a mother for 3 days. She held on to that memory while the man did what Turner had paid him to do. Under a magnolia tree in Virginia, Nora was buried. Patience would never see that tree again, never visit that grave, never be able to say goodbye again. This was her life now, this breeding house, these beds, these men, until her body gave out, until she died,